We're taking a look at the Gozney Arc XL versus the Ooni Karu 16. We're gonna be looking through some data, like how long they take to get up to temp, max temp, heat distribution, pros and cons, and which one is better for you. Let me start by saying that I am not an affiliate, ambassador. I get no gain whatsoever from saying one of these is better than the other. You get my honest take on everything about these ovens. So let's get into the data. So this graph here is our first test seeing how long they take to get up to temp. My benchmark I go for is 850. The Gozney Arc is in the yellow and the Ooni Karu is in the blue. You can see for the most part it's a neck and neck race all the way up till 850. I mean, the Arc did it in 41, the Karu did it in 40. It's sixes. But after that is where you start to see it diverge. The Ooni kind of levels off. So let's get to the 950 benchmark, which, you know, a lot of pizza manufacturers tout that their pizza ovens get to 950. Well, the Gozney Arc did not lie. It gets there in 1 hour and 2 minutes. And the Karu never got to 950. The hottest I got it to was 930, and it took 1 hour and 15 minutes. The max temp on the Karu, we just discussed, 930. On the Gozney Arc, it's over 1,000. I stopped because the dial there just says hot, and I used the infrared and got to like 105, but I didn't want to really push it much further and risk cracking it. But it took 1 hour and 27 minutes to get there. One of the other tests I wanted to do on the Karu was how long it took to get up to temp with the door open. The only reason I did that was I wanted to see how powerful the burner was, because I was hoping the burner would be as powerful as its competitors and the door would just give it an advantage. So you can see here on this graph, this is with the door open, full throttle. The hottest it ever got was 730, and it took, you know, about 50 minutes to get pretty close to there and leveled off. It bounced around. I mean, it is outside, but 750, 730 was the max. I was hoping it would be higher and the door would just make it heat up quicker. So the fact that this has a door and heats up in time as this without a door shows that this burner is hotter, the Arc. Another thing I thought would be interesting is the max temp on the lowest setting for the dial. So that way if you have a pizza party and you know you're gonna go inside for a while, you can sit on the lowest setting and kind of know you're not gonna come out and it's like 1,000 and something degrees, right? So the Arc XL on low is 650. And the Karu 16 is 450. I'm not saying one of those is good and one of those is bad. It is what it is. Okay, the next test is what I call the recovery test. And for me, this is a big one. And here's how the test works. We get the pizza oven up to 850 and we launch a pizza. And we actually let the stone sit for like 20 minutes at 850. We want it really saturated with heat. Let it cook for 1.5 minutes. Take the pizza out and temp it so we know where it's at, and just out of curiosity. And then we check with the thermometer frequently to see how long it takes to get back up to 850. So the Arc XL took 3 minutes to get back up to temp. The Karu 16 took 7 minutes to get back up to temp, and that is with the door shut. I think it has to do with they've insulated the Arc better on the bottom, and that's why it's retaining that heat more, because I did make sure that that internal thermometer read 850 when I did that test. So 3 minutes, 7 minutes. If you're cooking 2 or 3 pizzas, that's not like a huge difference. But once you start having parties and you're cooking 15 to 20 pizzas, or you're doing catering or, you know, food, like other events, that starts to add up, especially since this doesn't even have a door. I know there's a company, New to You, they make doors for like the Rock Box and the Dome. They are coming out with a door here soon for the Arc. And I took my New to You baffle door for my Dome, and it got it to fit, kind of, and it got up to temp. It hit 850 in about 25 minutes. I didn't get a chance to test it in between cooks, but I'd almost guarantee it's gonna be less than 3 minutes. New to You is coming out with that soon, so keep an eye on their website. I'll do a follow-up video once I get it and show how it does, and go over to somedadscook.com and sign up for future giveaways, because I will be giving away some of those doors. The next test that I like to do is like a heat distribution test. So what we do there is same deal with the launching at 850. The stone has saturated for a while. We're on full throttle for the heat, and we cook it for exactly 1.5 minutes and don't turn it. And the reason I do that is I want to see where all that heat is going. It did drive me a little crazy just watching some of these pizzas burn. But let's start with the Karu 16. I was actually surprised by this one. So you can look at this picture here. Yeah, it wasn't a great launch, so the pizza's a little oblong. Didn't turn it once. So I do gotta say that the Karu 16, if you're one that just wants to throw it in, close the lid, and not turn it a lot, then the Karu has the advantage there. There's just that front right corner that could use a little bit more browning. And towards the back, it burned a little, but not that bad. But I'm pretty impressed with just launching it and letting it cook, and you're good to go. With the Arc, it's a different story. You can see with the Arc on the left, there is a hot spot. It burned the crap out of it. And then along the back, it's pretty hot too. So pretty much from 3 to 6 o'clock, it's not cooked very well. So the heat distribution is very different in here. Now, I'm not saying one of these is better than the other. I think it depends on what kind of cook you are. Me personally, I like to know where my hot spots are so I can look at the crust and think, okay, I want a little more char here. I'm gonna move it to the hot spot and get that char. You have more control. Where in the Karu, I didn't really find a spot that was hot enough to really do that. But at the same time, you don't have to really turn it around much. So I'm leaving that decision up to you. Just to show perspective, I did one pizza, another pizza in the Arc on same threshold, 1.5 minutes, full throttle, 850, and turned it. And this is what the pizza turned out like, which is exactly how I like it, and it was delicious. And I would show the bottoms of the pizza, but they're pretty much the same layout as the top, and once I flip it over, it kind of gets confusing. One of the problems I have when wanting to cook pizza is a lot of recipes are for 4 dough balls or 10 dough balls or whatever. So on somedadscook.com, there's a pizza calculator you can use. If you go to somedadscook.com and go to pizza calculator, you can actually put in the amount. So let's say you wanted 7 250 gram dough balls for the night. It'll put out how much flour, water, salt, yeast. Or if you're thinking, okay, I actually need 15 for the night. Boom. It'll spit out and tell you exactly how much you need. And also, if you want to do a 16-inch pizza, I just put 2 of those 250 gram dough balls together to make it. Now let's go over portability. Both these ovens are kind of heavy. Let's go over their weights. The Arc XL comes in at 58.5 pounds. And the Karu 16 comes in at 62.6 pounds. So both pretty heavy. Not a huge difference in weight. But when it comes to moving them around, I've had to move these guys around quite a bit lately. The Arc, there's a kind of a slot under here that I can pick it up from that makes it easier. I mean, it's still heavy, but I can pick it up from this slot and get it around, and then I can just lean it on me. The Karu, I can't do that. I have to kind of pick it up from the side. So it's a little harder sometimes getting through the doorway, carrying it on my side. Also, you got the chimney you gotta worry about. And for me, the biggest problem is these legs right here. Because, let me lift this up, and here, let's do it this way. When you can lift this up, when you're moving it, if you accidentally knock this leg, then it's gonna fall down and it can hit this and ruin your thermometer. Which when I was moving, I had that happen a few times where the legs had bent over and I was very careful not to let it fall. But I just had to be a lot more careful with the Karu than the Arc. Now let's talk about the different ways you can cook in here, or at least heat sources. The Karu, you've got wood that it comes with, and then you've got propane and natural gas, different accessories for those, but you have the option for all 3. The Arc XL is just propane. That's it. So how do these guys compare with each other on price? The Arc XL currently is $7.99. That's everything. I do wish they threw in a peel, a pizza peel, like they do on the Rock Box. That'd be nice. The Karu comes in at $7.99, but that does not include a propane burner or a natural gas burner. It does come with the wood. The propane burner is an extra $120, so that kind of puts it up. But right now, I just checked Ooni's website. They have a deal where if you get both of them together, it's $826. So they're in the same ballpark right now. Before we get into the pros and cons, if you've enjoyed this video so far, please like the video. And also, if you subscribe, it helps us be able to get more products to be able to review. Now, the pros. Let's start with the Karu 16. It's got 3 different ways that you can heat it up, so it is more versatile. I wish every pizza oven had a natural gas option. I really do. You can easily cook a 16-inch pizza in here. So I have a little 16-inch cutout, and you can see it fits, it's got room. And then I'll show you here, we actually cooked a 16-inch pizza in it. And the pizza we cooked in here, I launched it at 850, but I turned the heat down to medium. So it cooked for a good 4 minutes. Almost more like a New Haven style, not really New York. Got a lot of char on it. I mean, it turned out really good. Go ahead and take a look. So here is a slice from our 16-inch pizza. So without bending the crust, it has a little flop, not too much. A slight bend in the crust, and it doesn't have really any flop. Let's go ahead and try a bite. So that the bottom, as you can see, got a lot of char, but also some crunch. And also there's plenty of room for a 12-inch pizza. Not really room for 2, but that's the great thing with these 16-inchers if you're just starting out, is you have room to work around. In my Rock Box, when you launch a 12-inch pizza, you gotta be like really on your game. I mean, the pro here for the 16-inch includes the arc as well. We cooked a 16-inch pizza in here, and you can see my 16-inch cutout fits just fine in there. We cooked a 16-inch pizza in here, launched it at 850, and I cooked it on high. Because on this one, I didn't want to try New York style yet. I wanted to see if on high it would burn. And here's how our 16-inch pizza turned out. Again, it's a little oblong. I was launching with a custom built board because I don't have a 16-inch peel. But here's how it turned out. It didn't burn. I mean, some people don't like the leoparding or the black spots there. I don't mind it. It turned out really good. The crust was in between, I'd say, a Neapolitan and a New York. It had a little crunch to it, but definitely was on the floppier side, but it was still delicious. Back to the Karu bonuses, the burner detaches. So if you do have issues with it, you can return the burner and replace that without having to replace a whole pizza oven. The door. I have mixed feelings on the door. I was hoping it would help this thing get up to temp quicker than its competitors, but the burner just isn't, I just don't think it's hot enough. I think they could have made the burner hotter. The door, what I noticed is it's great for getting up to temp and in between cooks, but the last half of a cook, when I'm cooking pizza, I felt like I was opening the door a lot and having to turn the pizza and close the door, open it, close it. So I just ended up keeping it open for the last while. Again, when you look back, you could just leave it in after that heat test. I did that later. You could just leave it in. That's not even a worry. But what I thought would be interesting is if we got the oven up to temp, you can see on the graph here, that straight line, we're cruising at 930 degrees. So the door's closed, burner's on high. And then I just opened the door. Kept the burner on high, but I just opened the door. And it dropped to 830 within the first minute. So that you're losing 100 degrees within a minute once you open that door, which, if you're opening it to turn the pizza at the end, could affect it. Now let's go over the pros of the Arc XL. You can adjust the temperature from the front while keeping an eye on the pizza. Digital thermometer, the probe is under the stone. So I love that because I'll use an infrared gun and it says 850, but then the stone says 750. So I know I'm gonna wait and maybe turn the heat down and get them both around 850, and I had great results with that. And like I mentioned earlier, 16-inch pizzas in here work great. I'm gonna do more testing with New York style, New Haven, like a bunch of different 16-inch pizzas. So stay tuned for that. The cons of the Karu. I experienced some ignition issues with this model. I had to use a lighter every time to start it. I could not get it to start with the normal ignition. The guy I borrowed this from has had it just a few months, and his first burner had issues, so he returned it, and this is his second one. So anything to the burner, related to the burner, I'm not saying that everyone's gonna have this issue, but it's an issue I experienced. But it got annoying having to relight it, having to light it with a lighter every time. And also, I experienced the flame going out, and going out, and going out, and going out. It got frustrating how many times the flame went out. So I went online and checked, and I checked the chimney, it's wide open. I checked, there's the thing up here, I checked that, it's open. I swapped out for a different propane tank that was completely full. It still went out on me. So that was frustrating. I think it's a problem with thermocouple or thermocoupler, I can't remember how you say it, but it seems like an issue with that. But again, this is just the experience I've had. I don't think every single model is like that, but it is a possible issue. One of the annoying things is adjusting the temp is in the back. So you're in the front cooking your pizza. And granted, on this one, I don't feel like I had to change the temp a lot. But if you are wanting to and you're just learning, going around and then adjusting it and then going back, depending on your setup, it could be a little annoying. When the Ooni has it right on the side, which I think works great, or the Arc has it here and the Dome does too. The cons for the Arc XL. My biggest con for this is that it doesn't have natural gas. It really does upset me. I'm lazy and hate filling up propane tanks. That's why I've got my Dome in natural gas. Honestly, if this thing were in natural gas, I'd have the Dome outside right now and this inside just to play around with it more. I really wish Gozney could get their act together and do better on natural gas. The Rock Box, just come up with a different attachment for it. The Dome has had issues with natural gas. That's my second one I've been on. I'm coming out with a video later on that, but it has had issues with getting up to temp. But I wish Gozney could perfect or even get better at natural gas, because my Ooni Coda rocks on natural gas. And then I've mentioned this in other videos, the hose on this is too short for a tall guy like me, but also the Karu has that issue as well. So which pizza oven is right for you? If you really need or want the ability to cook with natural gas or cook with wood, then I would say go with the Karu 16. This thing comes in at half the price of the Dome, which I feel like can do the same things. The Dome, I do feel like it cooks wood quite a bit better than this one does. I've done wood on here a lot, and it's more fun and it's just easier. It works in here, it definitely works. But if those are two things, one or the other, you really need, then you gotta go with the Karu 16, which I don't think is a bad choice. It cooks great pizza and it works. But if you're one that's gonna be cooking only with propane, I gotta say, I prefer the Arc XL. From the testing I've done, which I did pretty extensive testing, I can with full honesty and confidence say that the Arc XL, I feel like is gonna be your better choice. It retains the heat better, it cooks hotter, it transports easier, and I had 0 burner issues. Let me know if you have any more questions on either of these ovens, and I've got more comparison videos coming out for the Arc versus the Rock Box versus the Coda 16 versus the Dome. Make sure you're subscribed and click the bell notification so you know when those come out.